This video is on solving absolute value equations. Remember that absolute value is just the distance a number is from zero. So this equation says we have taken the absolute value of some number and gotten 3. In other words, can you think of what numbers are 3 units away from zero? Well, the obvious one is 3, because if you put 3 in here, the absolute value of 3 is 3. But also, x could be negative 3. There's 2 answers here. Now, I want to consider those as what's called cases. This is a positive case. This is a negative case. Not just because the answers worked out to be positive and negative. It's because in the setup, when you do absolute value equations, they require us to set up a positive case and a negative case, because the quantity inside those bars could have been a positive value or it could have been negative. We don't know what it was. So we have to set up 2 separate equations to solve. And it is separated with the word or in between, because x can't equal 3 and equal negative 3 at the same time. X could be 3 or x could be negative 3. That's the big deal on absolute value equations. If you can remember to set up 2 cases, then absolute value problems are pretty easy to do. Take this one. There's more stuff inside the bars, but it really doesn't matter. It's the same idea. We need to set up a positive case. Now, the positive case looks just like the problem with the bars removed, because this is saying this x plus 2, which was inside the bars, could have been a positive 5, because the absolute value of positive 5 will give us 5, or the stuff that was inside the bars could have equaled negative 5. So all you have to do to make these 2 cases is take what's inside the bars, write it down as is, set it equal to the positive value, do the same thing, take what's inside the bars, write it down, set it equal to negative 5. And all you have are 2 simple little equations to solve. This says x plus 2 equals 5. Undo that adding 2 by subtracting 2 from both sides, and we get x equals 3. Same process on the other equation. Subtract 2 from both sides. Negative 5 plus negative 2, those are both negatives. Keep the negative sign and add. Now, with absolute value equations, it's important that you check. Pretty easy to check. Put 3 in for that x. 3 plus 2 is 5. And the absolute value of 5 is 5, so we're good with the 3. Put negative 7 in here. Negative 7 plus 2 is actually a negative 5, but we're going to take the absolute value of that, which will turn it into positive 5. Absolute value of 2x minus 4 equals 6. We're going to set up our 2 cases. We're going to set up 2x minus 4 equals 6. Notice we didn't make any change on what's inside this bar. Common mistake is to think, oh, I need to make everything that was negative inside the bar into a positive. No, we're taking whatever that is and writing it down. When we do the negative case, we take whatever that is and we write it down. The only change is this is now a negative 6. These are little 2-step equations to solve. Undo this minus 4 by adding 4 to both sides, which gives us 2x equals 10. Undo that 2 times by dividing by 2, which gives us x equals 5. Same exact steps on the right one. Add 4 to both sides. The difference now is arithmetic. This is a negative 6 plus 4. Those are different signs. Keep the sign of the larger and subtract them. Divide by 2, and we get x equals negative 1. Let's plug these back in and check. If you put 5 in here for this x, 2 times 5 is 10. 10 minus 4 is 6. The absolute value of 6 gives us 6, so we're good. Put negative 1 in here. 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. Negative 2 minus 4 is a negative 6, but the absolute value of negative 6 is 6. So we're good with both of them. We have 2 answers on these absolute value equations. There will come a time when some answers don't work, and that's why you need to be in the habit of checking your answers each time. Absolute value of x plus 7 equals negative 10. Before you jump into writing your 2 cases, think about something. This says they took the absolute value of something and got a negative value. Is it possible for absolute value to equal negative? No. So that when you see this kind of problem, the answer will be either the words no solution or the symbol empty set. Absolute value cannot be equal to a negative. So don't take time setting up the steps. This is it. You say no solution. Sometimes with these absolute value problems, there's more on the side with the absolute value bars. And there's an important rule, and that is You do not separate your cases until the absolute value part stands alone. That means we need to get rid of this 3, and we'll get rid of it the normal way. That's a plus 3. Do the opposite, which is subtract 3. When we do this, we're going to have absolute value of x plus 2 equals 4. So the absolute value bars must be isolated before you set up the 2 cases. Now we're ready for the 2 cases, positive case and negative case at the same time. Now you can do the solving at the same time. Both of those say x plus 2. To undo that, we're going to subtract 2. So I wrote it down all at the same time. Do your arithmetic. We're going to get 2 for one answer, negative 6 for the other. And when you check, don't check here. You want to check in the original. So put 2 here. 2 plus 2 is 4. The absolute value of 4 is 4. 4 plus 3 is 7. So we're good on that one. Put negative 6 in here. Negative 6 plus 2. Take the absolute value. Negative 6 plus 2 is negative 4. But the absolute value of negative 4 is 4. 4 plus 3 is 7. So be sure you check in the original problem. This one has a little more stuff with the absolute value bars, and we have to remember our absolute value bars must be isolated before we set up the 2 cases. And if this looks complicated to you, just think about this absolute value thing just being a big old capital A. And we would have this equation, 4a minus 6 equals 10. Very simple equation to solve for a. To undo this minus 6, we would add 6 to both sides, which is the first thing we're going to do over here. That makes those 6's cancel out. And now we have 4 times the absolute value of x plus 2 equals 16. That's 4 times something. To undo multiplying, we do the opposite, which is dividing, which makes those 4's cancel out. And now we just have absolute value of x plus 2 equals 4. We only have the absolute value bars isolated. Now we're ready to set up the 2 cases. X plus 2 equals positive 4, x plus 2 equals negative 4. I went ahead and solved these out because this is the exact same equation we just had a couple slides ago. We have these 2 answers, and we would like to check those in the original. Put a 2 here. 2 plus 2 is 4. The absolute value of 4 is 4. 4 times 4 is 16. 16 minus 6 is the 10, so we're fine with this one. Put negative 6 in here. Negative 6 plus 2 is a negative 4, but the absolute value of negative 4 is 4, times the 4 that's sitting in front, minus 6. 4 times 4 is 16, minus 6 is 10, so this one is good also.